With the inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix just days away, the spotlight of the Formula One world is turning its burning gaze to the sports tyre manufacturer Pirelli. The famous tyre brand has faced its criticisms over the past few years as the ground effect cars post-Pirelli never-before-faced problems. Perhaps the biggest challenge yet, though, will be keeping the cars on the road on the frigid streets of Las Vegas. The simple matter of the fact is that Formula One cars are not designed or tested to run in these temperatures, and Pirelli's tyres will suffer from the same problem. At the last Grand Prix in Brazil, the temperature was very comfortable in the low 20 degrees centigrade. For those of us in the UK, that's shorts and t-shirt weather. The track had the chance to soak up the sun throughout the day as well, which helped the surface of the track heat up. Pirelli offered the teams the C2, C3 and C4 tyres for the race. The C4 is the second softest of the range, and it was absolutely abused during the sprint and the full Grand Prix. After the sprint, Alex Albon described the weekend's soft tyre, the C4. The degradation is just massive. It feels terrible to drive, to be honest. These tyres are just not good. You have to manage them so much. The problem in Brazil was that a hot track, combined with old tarmac, caused the tyres to overheat and wear very quickly. When you turn a corner in a Formula One car, you generate 4 to 6 Gs of force. When you turn a corner in your car on the way to the shops later, you're unlikely to get anywhere near 1 G of force. That 4 to 6 Gs of force gets applied laterally to the tyres, with the tyres on the outside of the corner bearing the brunt of the load. That energy gets converted into heat in the tyre, which obviously warms them up. The track surface at most racetracks is quite abrasive as well. A different type of tarmac is used compared to the road outside your house, which is beautifully smooth after it's been freshly laid. That abrasive surface causes friction between the rubber and the tyre, which generates heat as well. Then you have the heat from the track itself warming the tyres up. There's the hot air from the car in front also, that's warming them up as well. All of this adds up, and eventually you get a tyre that is far too hot. When a tyre is too hot, the physical composition of the rubber starts to change, and eventually it starts marbling and falling apart. You can see this on the tyres as the cars go round a track, and if you look off the racing line at a place like Brazil, you'll see black balls of rubber everywhere. In Las Vegas though, this won't be a problem because the air temperature is expected to be in single digits, which is really cold for an F1 race. The track surface itself will also be cold as the race is running late at night to give it the full effect of the Las Vegas Strip's lights. Then there is the track surface, which has been freshly laid in nice smooth shiny tarmac, so the surface will be kinder to the tyres. There aren't that many fast corners on the Las Vegas circuit either, which means the force being put through the tyres as the cars go around a corner will be far less. All of this added together will result in much cooler tyre temperatures. That sounds great, right? If the tyres were awful in Brazil because of the hot weather, then they should be great in Las Vegas because it's cold. If only Formula One were that simple. Formula One cars and their tyres are designed to run in a slim temperature window, and the combination of the track, the time of day, and the weather in Las Vegas is going to make the tyres far colder than they ever should be for Formula One running. To try and combat this, Pirelli are going to bring the 3 softest tyres which heat up the easiest. Because the rubber is softer, it's more malleable while on track, and that movement of rubber generates heat. The C3 tyre will function as the hard compound choice, with the C4 as the medium and the C5 as the soft. The practice sessions will take place late in the evenings on Thursday and Friday, with qualifying potentially held in even colder conditions since it starts at midnight on Saturday morning. The race begins at 10 PM local time later that day. The temperature and the asphalt is quite smooth, according to the information I had, said Pirelli's motorsport director Mario Azzola. So the level of grip will be very poor. I can anticipate this. I can imagine that with these cold conditions, super cold conditions, and a circuit that's not generating a lot of energy into the tyres, the warm-up will be tricky, he added. So what is the actual knock-on effect for the racing? Poor grip is obviously a big issue for a Formula One car that wants to be cornering at tremendous speeds. The final turn, number 17, will be taken at about 315 kilometers an hour, which is just a shot short of 200 miles an hour. When you have a cold tyre, you get poor grip, and if you're trying to go round a turn at 200 miles an hour, you really want your car to stick to the track, not go sliding into the barrier outside a 7-Eleven. Williams driver Alexander Albon says the cooler temperatures could lead drivers to spend a significant amount of the qualifying session warming up their tyres rather than going on push laps. It's clear that it's very high speed. It feels extremely quick when you're driving on the simulator, he said of the new Las Vegas Strip circuit. A lot of the corners are even flat still. so there's not so many corners, which obviously favors us. Should be 4 degrees, 5 degrees Celsius I think, which will be interesting. Alex says that the lack of corners will favor his Williams, which has been great on a straight this season but very slow through corners. He suggested drivers might need to do 3 or 4 prep laps for qualifying to get their tyres up to the correct temperature before starting a flying lap. This will be a problem. In normal circumstances, Q1 can get very congested with drivers on the track going slowly during prep laps, while there are cars going flat out trying to set their best time possible. At a normal track, you would just prep on your out lap and then go for a push lap. But in Vegas, that just won't work. You're going to have the full grid on track going very slowly for 3 or 4 laps. There won't be the normal jam at the end of the pit lane with 2 minutes left because the cars will need to be on track with 6 minutes to spare just to warm up their tyres. Q3 will be even worse because with just 10 minutes on the clock, the drivers are unlikely to have time to get any more than 1 lap done due to how long it'll take to warm the tyres. Qualifying is going to be dangerous. There are going to be a lot of cars going slowly, weaving all over the track to try and get their tyres to temperature, and around them there are going to be cars going flat out at what is going to be a very fast track with poor visibility. But it will get worse. The race is where the real risk is. The tyres will sit in their blankets on the grid, keeping toasty hot before the race begins, but as soon as those blankets are off, the temperature in the rubber will plummet. The warm-up lap from the grid might help get some heat back into the tyres, but if Alex Albon is right, and they need 3 or 4 laps to get them into an optimal operating window, the warm-up lap for the race will be worthless. Whoever is sitting in pole position will have lost all their tyre temperature by the time the car in 20th is in their grid box. The first corner could be a complete mess, with cold tyres locking up all over the field. Let's say they do make it through the first few laps without any incident though. The tyres will be warm, hopefully, and the racing can really begin. That is until someone clips a wall or locks up into the back of another car. The race director deploys a virtual safety car, or even worse, a full safety car. The tyres drop all their temperature as the cars trundle around at a snail's pace of 100 km an hour. Then when you have the safety car restart or the VSC ends, cars are going to be trying to sprint off with cold tyres that give almost no grip. You know what happens when you try to corner a Formula 1 car with no grip because of cold tyres? It slides straight off track into the unforgiving concrete barriers of the Las Vegas street circuit. Of course, it isn't Pirelli's fault that the track will be cold. They didn't design their tyres with this race in mind. The race was planned without their consultation, and former Formula 1 chief and subject of a new Disney Plus documentary, Ross Brawn, admitted that there were a few oversights on the planning committee's behalf. Speaking about the potential of disastrously low temperatures, Brawn said, "The one thing we hadn't considered initially, but the tyre company have dealt with, is it's getting very, very cold at night. So when the race is happening, which is Saturday night, it's been known to drop down to 3 or 4 degrees. So it can be really quite cold, and of course getting the cars to work in those temperatures can be a challenge. The tyre companies have done some work to make sure the tyres can cope with that." This oversight is absolutely huge, but it is easy to imagine how it would happen. When you think of Las Vegas, you think of the Nevada desert. Death Valley is just around the corner. You have Red Rock and the Grand Canyon National Park on its doorstep as well. These are all very hot places, and during the summer, the temperature regularly hits 40 degrees centigrade. During November though, it can get right down to freezing temperatures, especially during the night. But you don't think about that when you think of Vegas, do you? Well, I don't anyway, I just think about the hot weather. So this issue is definitely not on Pirelli, but as a tyre manufacturer, they will definitely be left shouldering the blame if things do go wrong. Like Ross Brawn said, they've made the sensible decision to take preventative action against the impending chaos of cold Formula 1 tyres. In the days, weeks and months leading up to the race, Pirelli has sought transparency from the FIA, Formula 1 and the teams. When the drivers have been doing simulation runs of the track, the data the teams gather on the tyres and the forces generated has been sent to Pirelli. Pirelli have then used this data to help them make decisions of tyre compound and pressure before the race. As I said earlier, the 3 softest available compounds will be at the event, the C3, 4 and 5. Pirelli will also mandate that the teams run the tyres with more pressure than normal. This will help the tyres hold their temperature better and should limit the amount of wear from tyre slipping. One area of change that was evaluated but not pushed through was the management of tyre blankets. There were talks of increasing the temperatures to over 70 degrees to keep the tyres hotter at the start of a stint. Tyre blankets have been far hotter in the past, but I don't know if the current blankets used by the teams could accommodate a higher temperature. Pirelli have said in the past though that no matter how hot you heat the tyres, by the time they get to the end of the pit lane, they've lost most of the temperature from the blanket anyway. Consideration was also given to allowing the blankets to be left on overnight. This would allow the cured rubber to retain the heat for longer. Isola explains, "We decided to select the 3 softest compounds simply because the temperatures are expected to be very low. We discussed the tyre blankets, and I believe we don't need to allow them to do something different. We have the blankets. 70 degrees is a temperature that allows you to go out with a tyre that has a good level of grip. Will the grip be good enough? Well, we'll find out soon enough." While a lot of the news regarding the tyres for the Las Vegas Grand Prix is very doom and gloom, there is some good news, depending on your allegiance. How different cars handle the tyres will be very different in Las Vegas, and teams that normally have excellent tyre wear may struggle for temperature, while those that have a habit of destroying their tyres through overheating might find some success. McLaren's Lando Norris had a good go at beating Max Verstappen in Brazil on raw pace, but fell just short. Norris finished 8 seconds behind the leader, but the next closest to them was Fernando Alonso, a whole 34 seconds behind Max. As the high tyre degradation race progressed, Norris could clearly be seen sliding backwards throughout his stints, explaining that, "I'm not far behind for the first 10 to 15 laps, but in that final phase, I just drop off a bit too much." While McLaren's development this season has been exceptional, they still can't match Red Bull in terms of tyre preservation. There can be a few reasons for this. Tyres wear via mechanical or thermal degradation. Mechanical degradation is the literal slipping of the tyre on the track surface, causing the rubber to be ripped off, like a rubber does when you erase something written in pencil. Thermal degradation happens when the tyres get too hot and they start to break apart. If Red Bull is excellent at managing thermal degradation, then they'll likely find themselves struggling for tyre temperatures in Las Vegas, meaning no grip for Max Verstappen. This could leave him vulnerable to any of the chasing pack. Mercedes and Haas are the 2 teams that come to mind when you think of exceptionally high tyre degradation. In Brazil, Merc were competitive in qualifying, and for the first 5 to 10 laps of their stints in the race, but after that, their tyres were completely shot. It was like watching a car drive on ice in the latter stages of the sprint race, as Lewis and George lost position after position. Haas have had a huge tyre management problem all year. Despite Nico Hülkenberg making a handful of Q3 appearances, proving their pace over 1 lap, the team are uncompetitive on Sundays. In Las Vegas though, they may be able to manage their tyres better, making them a serious threat for some points in front of a home crowd. Are you expecting the tyres to be the only talking point of the weekend? Or will Pirelli and the teams find a way to resolve the problem of running a race at a track that's far too cold for a Formula 1 car? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.